I want the club sandwich. I want the cold Mexican beer. I want a $10,000 a night hooker. The world causes it. This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves. Technological fucking civilization. But we still have all this shit because we can't live without it.
Good evening. My name is Lee. Welcome to Jare. On this week's episode, the Jares will discuss the movie Johnny Mnemonic, integration and disintegration, tech as nature, 90s punk culture, and much, much more. Lights, camera, action.
Right, look at Schwartz, he had beautiful puppet shows. Nobody knew him until he became Malkovich,
Exactly. So we pretty much have to become Jaredvich. J-Bonevich.
We pretty much do, J-Bone. Yeah. J-Bonevich.
Bro, that movie is so good.
Oh my god. Johnny Mnemonic might be the best movie ever made, sci-fi. Dude, it's crazy how much that movie is The Matrix.
Oh yeah.
Like uploading shit into his head. J-Bug, Ice Cube, and that whole thing is like Zion,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the low techs are Zion.
Right. In fact, at one point he even says, "My name is Mr. Smith."
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, he's literally wearing a suit and says, "My name is Mr. Smith," and it's like the Wachowskis had to have been into this movie.
Oh yeah,
which would make sense too, because it was like 90s cyberpunk, screenplay by William Gibson. Like I'm sure that they were aware of this movie and probably like deliberately nodding to it.
Oh, for sure. Even the ending credits is like a crazy like techno song, like The Matrix sort of thing.
Yeah, the whole like 90s rave scene.
Oh man, there's some other elements there too that are just like straight out of The Matrix, But you could just see the little Wachowski brothers, soon to be sisters, watching freaking Johnny Mnemonic, all stoked. That was me, man, when I was a kid. I loved that movie.
Yeah, it is good. It's so like comic booky and funny, and the dialogue is just so shitty in some parts, but that's what makes it awesome,
It's funny, but the first scene, I was gonna be like, "Oh man, Jared's gonna hate this. This is the worst movie ever made."
Yo, it's not good. It is not.
No, it's not like a good movie. Yeah,
no,
but
it's like I loved it because it's like it's like a 80s action figure kind of thing, it's like right. Hilarious and awesome. But like the first lines in it where it's Keanu and like I don't know if that was like a prostitute, whoever that girl is, and she's just like I'm going out for ice, and Keanu's like, "Oh, we already have ice." And she like leaves and it's just like so poorly done, thing.
Also, I was like, oh shit, I forgot. Like this girl probably goes and like gets a gun or something, I was like, but they just leave it. It's like, oh, she lies about the ice, so that they just move on. I guess she just lied about the ice. Okay.
She was literally just gonna go get ice,
She must not have heard him,
Yeah, she
said I have
no
ice.
other role.
Because it takes him so long to talk.
Because he's so stoned. He's fucking Keanu. Bill and Ted, bro.
We have ice.
We already have. And then she like walks out the door. Ice. It's like, what the fuck, bro?
The chick's already at the ice machine by the time you finish your sentence.
Oh man, that movie sucks. It's so awesome.
Also, isn't one of the bad guys? He was also in Blade Runner, right?
Oh, was he? Which one?
I'm pretty sure. Freddy or whatever. What was his name?
One of the Yakuza guys?
No, the guy who like gets chopped up with the laser thing.
Oh, that was so funny when he gets sliced up.
Is it Freddy?
Ralphie,
that's what it is.
Yeah, that dude was such a bitch. Yeah.
So tell me, Ralphie, this sounds like a bone tuna.
You lying sack of shit, Ralphie.
You learned that 'cause there were two really bad guys that met me, Ralphie. They were scary.
Oh man, and Keanu's character is just like so gullible the whole time and just like dumb.
Right. Yeah, it's funny too because it's like he's almost Neo, he's almost John Wick, but he's like too stupid for both roles, and he's honestly kind of like he's really he's like a vulnerable, like masculine figure. You know, I wouldn't say that he's like the traditional, you know, savior. If anything, he's sick the whole time, you know?
Yeah, and he's kind of a derp. Yeah, like.
Right. Kind of a derp and getting into trouble all the time. And like when he does finally find Ralphie, he gets like his head plowed into the bathroom stall, and, you know, so he's not necessarily like the John Wick figure.
No, he's not like super competent, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Why is that? You think that fits the like the new hero that was trying to be presented in the 90s, like via technology? It wasn't necessarily had to have been like Arnold Schwarzenegger anymore in the 80s in Total Recall.
Totally.
It was now like no sideburns, you know, skinny, kind of frail Keanu at the time. So
right. Yeah, and I mean he's like vaguely competent because there's that first scene where he like, some ass and gets out of there, right? But for the most part, he's just kind of confused and lost. And I think there's a couple of things going on there. One, we had a conversation in a previous pod about the hero and the hero's journey and that sort of thing, and sort of the disintegration of that. You know, I mean that's not nearly as popular as it was in like the 70s and 80s. You know, the hero's journey. And I think it's kind of the beginnings of that. What was this, 95, 96?
Yeah.
So I think you're starting to see people just get disenchanted with the like, you know, ultra strong, you know, chosen one kind of figure.
Right.
And then also, if you look at William Gibson's work, whether it's his novels or movies, I mean, they're not strong in terms of plot. You know, I mean, his plots are always kind of like funny and kind of goofy and weird, and his characters aren't really strong either. But what is strong, it's like it's all about the atmosphere. It's all about the cyberpunk ambiance and sort of like more about like having a container to deliver these like conceptual ideas about the role of like tech and corporations and like tech as God in the new millennium. And like I feel like his works are more about the ambiance and the philosophy more than it is about the plot and character development, you know?
Right. It's interesting to notice too the juxtaposition of when I like to see when authors write screenplays.
Totally.
And it oftentimes comes out to be kind of awkward in a way.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue never seems to be as fitting for screen compared to books. I don't know what it is about literature, but you can capture like a different sense of dialogue within reading. I think it's just the way that you're comprehending it, because you can make your own tone of voice. Reading tones, I say, is a lot louder than seeing or hearing tone. And I think that's a way in which perhaps mediocre dialogue can really pass through in literature, but on film, you have that added layer of the actor, the camera, you know, all these other different fundamentals that then your dialogue has to be a lot stronger, or it has to be picked up by the actor or the director or the cinematographer. It has to honestly be a harmonious symphony between all of those characters for it to really go through. I mean, there's only a few actors, probably like Daniel Day-Lewis's of the world, that can take shitty dialogue and really turn it into a miracle all on their own, you know?
Yeah.
Keanu, as much as I love him, he's just not that guy.
Keanu's not that guy. Nor is Ice-T.
No.
Ice-T is also not that guy.
Neither is Henry Rollins. It's so awesome, though, that he's in that movie.
Yeah. It's like a fitting role.
Right. And it just goes with the whole theme of sort of harking back to last week's episode, the horror, like contemporary horror story.
Yeah, totally.
You know, Rollins fits that mold because like 90s punk music, late 80s punk music and stuff, they were setting up for the new contemporary horror, which was technology, big corporations, you know, the Yakuza, big pharma, right?
Totally.
That's another huge theme with that throughout the movie. So I don't know. It's interesting that and that's a total like Wachowski sisters move to like get Henry Rollins, this badass, to like, you know, play a cool, you know, little side role in the movie. So anyways.
Yeah. So much there, you know. I mean, with Henry Rollins, like I like how they didn't cover up any of his tattoos. Like he's definitely playing himself, kind of, you know.
Right.
And it's cool because it's like, you know, like the first scene with him, you like see in the corner his like Misfits tattoo on his arm, and it's just like, oh, cool. It's like that's the culture that's coming through in this movie, like you're saying, the like 80s, 90s punk scene, all that sort of stuff. You know, Misfits tattoos, like Henry Rollins, and it's really, really cool that's coming through. And I think so much part of that too is like the low techs, which are, you know, like we we're saying, kind of like the Zion guys in Matrix, like the low techs who are just these like regular, organically grown, like grassroots movement of people, you know, this just like community first kind of punk vibe and punk aesthetic, you know, that I think you kind of still see around, you know, like definitely that has a presence in Albuquerque for sure, you know, this like, you know, I don't know, activist punk kind of people, that sort of thing. So it's the low techs are interesting to me, and like, and the sense of camaraderie that's there, you know, it's like as you're watching it, at least for me, like I want to be one of the low techs. I want to hang out in Ice-T's crew, you know, and be like, oh shit, the Yakuza, you know, and like me and my homies grab some guns and chase after him, you know.
Totally. Hanging out with a dolphin and a tiny little fish tank.
God, should we get into the dolphin? Because there's actually quite a bit there.
There's a lot there. We should transition to the dolphin. Maybe we should talk about the dolphin now. I'm just thinking that the dolphin like able to live a long life and not die of a heart attack of anxiety living in that tank, because it's,
bro, that was my first thought. Yeah,
journeying through virtual reality, you know. And little sidebar comment on that. Man, this movie is quite predictive. Like the Facebook VR headset, it looks exactly like the VR headset Johnny Mnemonic puts on.
Wait, can we pause for a second? Because I have all right, because I'm getting excited here because this movie's got.
I know, me too. I wanted to comment on what you first said too, but
dude, exactly.
I've already lost it. There's too much. Let's just keep going. There's layers to this movie.
There's layers. Yeah, I feel like we should like pick a path and then go on that path, because otherwise we're gonna keep fucking jumping because there's so much. All right, should we start with like dolphin, which is weird as fuck?
What did you say? What did you say before dolphin?
Before dolphin, I was saying, just kind of that being part of the cyberpunk ethos is the like grassroots punk community, essentially. That's like struggling but striving together in their sense of camaraderie, like the humanistic folks versus like the corporate guys, you know. That's always a theme in these movies, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And then Henry Rollins and like just the whole punk aesthetic kind of like feeds into that.
Right. I think it's cool that they did that, and that goes in with the style of what you're saying too, of how it's sort of even like comic booky with those video game scenes in the background, and like, you know, the headsets and stuff. This made me think, man, how did they not, Warner Brothers, take the Matrix and start doing shows and movies like they have done with Star Wars and freaking Marvel and stuff like that? Man, I would love to see like a Yakuza themed Matrix like show. like a really
have you seen
serious. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they have the Matrix, the animated Matrix,
The
whatever.
animated, right? But I mean, that came out 20 years ago. At this point, I'm talking like straight up like
new
HBO shit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Warner Brothers, that would be so cool.
Right.
But yes, the whole oh man, I had a really good point when you were first bringing that up.
See, what's interesting that stands out to me about the low techs, which one that's
the
cool,
low techs, yes.
I like that they're called the low techs. There's something like even that itself is kind of rebellious, right? Because we always prioritize like high tech, it's like this idea that this new technology is gonna bring something into your life and benefit you, right. And the low techs are like, no, if anything, I mean, this is healing the fragmented village, which we've been talking about.
Sure.
Like that's the low techs, right? It's these people who are like disenfranchised and disillusioned with like the high tech narrative that we've been sold by big pharma, big tech corporations, and then come together in this like organic street people kind of way, Yes,
this is exactly I remember exactly what I was going to say. You also mentioned you felt like a lot of this culture in Albuquerque, Albuquerque artists, whatever, New Mexico, so we're driving back from the state fair this week, me and Dion with the family, and I had a great time, by the way. New Mexico State Fair, so awesome. So we're driving back home, and Dion's like, "Fuck yeah, they got Meow Wolf," and we look, man, and like they're brand new, $20,000 pink billboard is graphed up with like the sickest graffiti you've ever seen from low techs, right?
Exactly.
These are true New Mexico artists that street art, right? Fucking beautiful too. It was badass,
right.
And all over that, because fuck them, man. They're a big farm. They're the big pharma. They're
exactly.
Of art,
by this point.
Yeah, it's all it is a freaking exploitative.
Yeah, it's fucking Disneyland.
Yeah, capitalistic freaking machine, man. Oh man. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of my points. There is the low techs. Oh man, and that's what they are. They're J-Bone. They're Ice-T out there.
J-Bone to J-Bone, bro.
And not just graffiti artists, like you're saying, like musicians, like, I was talking with Zay the other day and like some other my old bandmates. It just sucks that we were never able to, like, we had a good thing when we were younger.
Sure.
We like hit the scene at the right time, right when Facebook and Instagram, all that shit were popping off. Like we had a really good sound and dedicated, and we were just a bunch of like group of Chicanos that ended up not getting an opportunity, and it just kind of sucks. We were the low techs, man. And then all these like terrible bands get these freaking huge record deals because somehow they hit an algorithm, or somehow they're somebody, the bass player is a rich kid and knows a guy that works at Facebook Records, whatever the case.
Yeah. See, and that's your example of like the billboard getting tagged up. I mean that in itself has so much meaning behind it, because what that is reclamation of public space. Right. And there's multiple art movements kind of dedicated to that. Like there's one guy in England doing something called subvertising, where it's all about subverting advertised spaces. So it's pretty much just like, fucking with public ads in like really clever ways, to make people actually think about what's going on, not just, think beyond the ads that they're seeing. Because the images we consume matter quite a lot. I feel like I've said this a lot before, but it's like the images we're consuming matter. If I'm watching images of like, I don't know, people getting their heads chopped off all day, that's going to have an impact on my psyche, versus if I'm seeing images constantly of like flowers and sunshine, or just going outside, right? So it's like the fact that our public space has been compartmentalized and privatized and sold, to corporations to just blast fucking images into our face constantly to brainwash us into thinking we need their products. It's all about the reclamation of public space. Like that's what street art really is. That's what the low techs really are. So it's cool too that the low techs, where's their headquarters? It's up on this bridge, up on this like abandoned bridge, which feels symbolic. It's like this higher up space. It's a broken bridge, which means, you know, it's this spot that at one point was dedicated to just cars and vehicles and commerce. And they're like, no, we're reclaiming this now. And this is the headquarters. You know, we're literally climbing high up on top of this bridge so that they call it heaven, so that you climb up to heaven so that you can see more clearly, you know, and see beyond yourself. You know, that's the whole thing that the low techs are doing, reclaiming public space and expanding vision.
And what it is it's a cyber religion, you know, it's the new it's post religion is what it is. And it's a reclamation project of the natural space, just like you're saying as well. Yeah. It's turning, we've in Johnny Mnemonic, you get to this point in 2021, which is funny. We almost were there. Yeah. Where we're actually reclaiming the concrete jungle, you know, the man-made space.
Exactly.
This is returning to your discussion and meditation on becoming human, you know, is once the apocalypse comes, there's really only one place to return, and that's in the woods, you know, back to the forest, back to reclaiming a natural space.
Right.
Like and subscribe, you know.
Yeah. No, seeing that's like what's fascinating too. I mean, if you talk about the advent of the internet itself, I mean, like in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, like all of these psychedelic people were obsessed with the internet. Like Timothy Leary got like really, really into cyberspace and the internet, because what it was like the material expression of what all these like psychedelic people were experiencing when they were tripping, which is to say a sense of interconnectedness. So they're taking this like spiritual interconnectedness and materializing it in the form of the internet, you know? Right. So taking that internal spiritualistic space and externalizing it. So all of these guys were like really psyched about it. And they saw it as this like really free space. Like any artist can go on and just like upload stuff. You can go on and like collaborate with someone from across the world you've never met before. And it was seen as this like kind of utopian free space. That virtual space was now the new frontier in a really healthy way. And then sure enough, you know, corporations got a hold of it and then started to segment, compartmentalize it, make that free space scarce, and then sell it back to us. And now we have the internet as it is, which is, you know, it's literally just corporate brainwashing at this point. I mean, literally algorithms and social media that are, you know, based on like casino algorithms and shit to get people addicted to it, you know. So it's but that's the trajectory that like our society always takes, you know. I mean, look at like North America itself, where it's like, you know, people came in and were just like, incorrectly so, but they were like, wow, look at all this open free space. And then that open free space gets broken down, compartmentalized, sold back to us, corporatized, you know. And now it's like, instead of these vast, beautiful vistas, you're driving down the highway looking at McDonald's everywhere, you know? Sure.
But then we have to, within this space that you're describing, we also then have to find or reclaim a paradise, right? Reclaim the promised land, so to speak. And it's interesting. I was sort of thinking, looking at like biblical themes too, while I was watching it, and heaven could be sort of the Ark of the Covenant with the dolphin there, and the secret of life that's going to continue on humanity amongst, you know, a technological flood.
Yeah.
And another point you brought up earlier about, you know, just the world that we live in now, whatever it is, the sickness that's going on. Well, that's the NOS, right? That's the NOS disease that's going around too, is what's inflicting all of us as well. Is it's this freaking technology, the images, when you're talking about images, right? Things that we see.
Yeah.
while people are actually getting sick. There's that great scene with Rollins that's like,
yes,
it's this, man, it's this.
Dude, that's such a good scene.
We rely on it.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's real though. And that's fucking crazy. It's like, it's like, I mean, that's the cool thing about dystopia is they're not commenting on the actual future. It's not like William Gibson was like, let me predict what's going to happen in 2021. He was like, I'm
what's happening in 1995. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just going to get worse and worse and amplified unless someone changes it. But, here we are. So, but yeah, dude, that was so interesting. What did they call it? Like the nerve attenuation syndrome.
Yeah.
And you get like the black shakes if you have it. But it was so cool because Rollins was like, right? Or Rollins' character, he's all like, he's all like, oh, there's propaganda trying to say that like it's the doctor's fault and it's healthcare's fault or whatever. Or just like he's like, there's all of this propaganda trying to point the finger, but he goes, no, it's literally the tech environments that we live in. He's like, that's not healthy for us. That's what's giving people the black shakes,
Right. What's interesting.
So the environment. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So the environment is the thing. Okay, so it's like the power structure creates the environment that's making everyone sick, and then the power structure, big pharma, then ends up profiting off that sickness and totally nefariously in the movie, they're withholding the cure to it because having a cure isn't as profitable as just slowly taking care of people over an extended period of time. So what do you think about that whole part of the narrative? How accurate is it? Did it resonate? Is it what's there for us to decipher?
So this is what freaks me out about that is the final conclusion that the writer comes to. And that's resolution with tech, essentially. It's the cure to this. And the cure wasn't, like Total Recall where he hits the button and an atmosphere grows on Mars that they were withholding from everybody. This isn't we're going to take all tech away and we're going back to peace in the woods. This was a cure, some sort of cure that allowed them to live with the tech.
Yeah.
And to grow and to and with technology and evolve, right? So it's interesting that the answer was not a return to nature, but instead an evolution with technology. And then living with one, what was once undone and sundered will be whole again. Everything goes back to the dark crystal. So
yeah, dark crystal, baby.
Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
But also other themes of religion, right? Okay, so we got the crazy priest.
That dude was
the bionic
awesome.
Priest, dude. So awesome, AB. We don't get crazy. I guess we do, but the whole henchman thing has just always been awesome forever.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious trope. Through James Bond and everything.
Totally.
But his characterization, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as the scholar and voice of becoming human. What makes us human? Is it our bodies? Is it just our brains? Because this dude was essentially just mechanical parts in a brain, right? Every limb in his body had been transferred out with some sort of higher upgrade robotic part.
Right.
So do we remain human if we don't have our body? And is the movie then commentating that we lose our humanity without our bodies? Because he was surely an inhumane person. He was greed-filled killer. So that wanted to live forever. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So the body thing makes me think of, if you look at sort of like Western history, and you look at, Catholic Protestant notions, going back to like medieval times, at least of the body, it's always about kind of demonizing the body, and that's where you end up getting, people like demonizing sexuality, demonizing the body, like, the kind of like dark preacher figures who are like dancing is a sin, shit like that.
Right.
So you get this separation of soul and body that these figures
that's
believe.
like the history of the Mnemonic, right? The Mnemonic, that chop off your member, so the
eunuch, yeah,
the body, right? The eunuch,
right? Exactly. So there's this idea that the body itself is something impure, and it's the spirit is something separate from the body that is pure. So it's that dichotomy that I think kind of caught, and we're still struggling with that. I mean, look at all the like body shaming that goes on and insecurity about our bodies and all of that. I mean, I think we're still experiencing kind of the hangover from the religious dichotomy of soul versus body. So then which is human, the body or the soul, right? And I would argue, get away from that narrative entirely and say, well, the body is the soul is the body. We talk about sort of like the mind body experience where it's like, again, it's all interconnected. It's all one thing. I mean, I don't think you can have, the body is I think the body is the form in which the spirit expresses itself. Right. And then the spirit is, an experience of the body. So I don't think there's any kind of separation there. So yeah, I mean, I think even when we talk about like uploading our brains to the internet, virtual reality space, all that sort of stuff, trying to escape into the metaverse, that, I mean, those are all like really escapist narratives. And I think they're Christian narratives in the sense that I'm going to abandon my body and enter into this state of purity. I mean, all we've done and the movie, Johnny Mnemonic gets at this too, where it's, the line about the preacher, that dude is that he is mistaken tech for God, right? So I think that's like what's going on here. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna drop my body and then just free myself in the virtual space. It's a Christian, it's a high tech Christian utopian narrative,
right?
That is inherently inhuman, I think.
Sure. And you're making me think too, man, that would be, from that viewpoint, it could be argued that that's an interesting commentary on the evolution of Christian flagellation of the body.
Right.
Because, the casting away of the body, everything you're saying, shame, all that stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
The eunuch, going back to that literal dismemberment, right?
Right.
This could be a radical evolution of that, where, this guy is justifying the mutilation of his own body because it's impure, right? The body's impure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And only the body of Christ can save him.
Yeah.
So he justifies through, but I see what you're saying though, through the experience of that the body is the mind and the mind is the body. Mm-hmm. And even if he has a mind connection with his mechanical body and his mechanical limbs, it's an inhuman experience, right?
Yeah.
It's dehumanizing. It's the opposite. So thus his mental experience and expressions would be inhumane. And clearly they are. He's a madman.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, that guy's lost his spirit through the loss of his body. Right. And, it's like, I mean, also conversations about what is a cyborg. I mean, if you want to be like pretty loose and open with the definition of a cyborg, I mean, if someone's wearing a pair of glasses, that's a cyborg, right? Because you're literally using a piece of technology to, amplify and increase the skill set of your organic human form, right? So I mean, you put on a pair of glasses and now you're a cyborg, literally, according to that definition, right? So
right.
So there's also a way in which it's like, okay, well, yeah, when do you lose your humanity? Because okay, I'm wearing glasses, I'm still human, obviously, right? Okay, now I've lost my arm and replaced it with a bionic arm, which we're literally doing, right? Veterans and shit, like prosthetics, like they're still human, of course, right?
Yes, absolutely, right.
So at what point does it does the humanity go away? What's that transition moment that you become, the preacher?
It's so true. Good God, Johnny Mnemonic's deep. Listen, though, that argument becomes problematic, obviously, right? Because of
what are you, an ableist?
People with accessibility issues,
Yeah.
And like me and Dolly were even saying, like, oh man, it's so sad. It's just like somebody who no arms and legs the other day on the news, that doesn't make them inhuman.
No, they're totally human, right?
Right. But then we have like heart transplants, basically. I mean,
right. You can literally have organ transplants.
Right. We're 3D printing lungs and livers and shit at this
which is
point,
great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all great. And I think we've talked about this too. Is like, cool, that's awesome,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I guess that null and voids your argument, that would null and void the argument. But then that the body is, and that's the thing, is that no matter what the body is, and that's sort of what I'm thinking. This dude was just greedy and mad to begin with.
Yeah.
He killed people to literally live longer. So he's a sociopath, going back to 3 weeks ago. He's a Christopher Columbus freaking wackadoo, or what's that Spanish colonizer we were talking about?
Cortez. He's Cortez.
He's a Cortez, right? He's
a
madman. So
yeah, see, okay, and like gosh, this is such a hard question. When what's the limits of your humanity, right? And then of course that's getting us into like, can,
oh my God, but then the most inhumane person, like in terms of what makes a human, your memories, your soul, your responses to things, Johnny is the least inhuman because of the chip in his brain, so if it's the brain that's corrupted, because he has to take off a large chunk of his memory in order to have such large storage in his brain, and it's his life that's the most inhumane of them all. Like even his lovers and his girlfriends, they're like, no, I expected that from you because you're freaking you're a Neo version of a freaking noir character, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's the body, perhaps the body doesn't necessarily matter. Like, for instance, chop mine or your heads off, right? And put us in a living droid's body or something, and we had some connection to it. It's not like we would cease to be J-Dogs, J-Bones. Reference to Johnny Mnemonic, but
oh, funny, bro.
Right? I mean, of course, though, maybe we would. I'd kind of freak out if I was just like, maybe I'd start making rational decisions. Listen, brains are not the like most stable things. Right. If I didn't have my human body anymore, I'm sure I'd be like pretty depressed and like, who knows, but maybe I'd try to like be like, this isn't so bad. I'm going to go like hiking or something and not get exhausted. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. And let me play with this idea. It's not totally formed. Just gonna be a little bit fumbling, but okay. So I think of integration versus disintegration. So follow me on this, right? And this is kind of mentioned it the other week, the whole like Plato thing, if you're integrated within yourself, that expands out to the community, and it's someone who's like aligned within themselves creates a more aligned family sense and community sense and state and so on and so forth. So it's all about top down, bottom up alignment, right? Of self and spirit, the Malkoviches, the disparate parts within yourself, finding cohesion and alignment within them. And I think, that's when we feel good, right? I mean, that's, we get a sense of happiness from that and a sense of direction and purpose and easefulness. It's when we're feeling separate, disintegrated, alienated from ourselves, that anxiety, depression, all of that kicks in, right? So it's that kind of inner integration that then expands outward. So then you have, okay, say like, racism and shit, right? I mean, what is that? That's separation. It's literally disintegration of communities, of groups of people and all of that. And that doesn't help anyone. There's all these sociological studies how more integrated communities actually benefits everyone. So, and I think to expand that further out and further out and further out, where it's not just, okay, I'm integrated with myself. Great. Then I'm integrated with my family, chosen or genetic, whatever. And then I'm integrated with my community, town, state, nation, and just keep expanding outwards, right? And now I'm seeing everyone else as human. There's compassion there. And then the most human then is to even expand that to like animals, right? And you're looking at, a dog, a cat, a bird, whatever, and feeling connection, compassion. So now you're integrated not just with the human world, but the animal world too. So then you start to perceive animals as human in that way, because now you're with it, you're connected with them, you feel the animal spirit, right? And then expand that even further, and then you get into alien territory, right? The aliens come down, and do you greet them as like, oh shit, that's a threat, or do you greet them as like, oh, those are intelligent beings who also experience consciousness? What can be shared here? What can be integrated here? So you just expand and expand and expand. So I think of the human as that integrated self, the actualized integrated self that's highly expanded in a deeply positive way, from inner to outer. And then it's the disintegration that starts to break that down, that starts to breed separation, racism, sexism, classism, all of the isms, right? Self-alienation, self-degradation, all of that kind of stuff. So when I think of like what human is, in the most positive sense, it's like an integrated self that's integrated from the individual outwards to the society and so on, including the animal realm, including the extraterrestrial realm, the God realm, all of that. Like that's human to me. So Ken, the preacher, I think, could have been human. Just because he was a cyborg didn't mean he had to be a piece of shit. He could have been a cyborg, but maintained his humanity and his ability to meet with others with empathy and compassion.
Right. I mean, even look at Johnny's girlfriend. What was her name? His bodyguard.
Fuck, what was that character's name? I know the actress, Dina Myers.
Which is cool. She plays his bodyguard,
Yeah, that was cool.
Yo, Johnny Mnemonic's got an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's bullshit.
18?
That's bullshit.
Bro, that's fucking trash. Because it's like, oh man, whoever voted that, they're not seeing all the layers of Johnny Mnemonic.
Dude, they've clearly not listened to this podcast, even though it's not published yet.
Wait, what was her name, that character?
Jane.
John and Jane. Yeah.
John and Jane. Yeah, that was his bodyguard. But I think you're exactly right. And that was sort of my point is to take a script from your old book is even in a Buddhist sense, right?
Yeah.
The body is just a vessel in some sort of way, right? It's not really it's not necessarily an integral part to your everlasting consciousness. And I think that if you can maintain integration, as you say, through whatever the vessel is,
right?
As long as the soul and the spirit remain in the brain, you can connect with a body, right? And that's why we get reincarnated and all these things. The certain bodies that we're in, as though they matter, right? What matters is the maintaining of the brain and the thought process and the consciousness, essentially, right? Which then takes care of the vessel, which is the body. So even if the vessel is better, mechanically speaking, that just means you can actually even become more integral with the brain, right? Even think about it in terms of that Sylvester Stallone Judgment Day or whatever. I don't know, one of those crazy sci-fis he did, Judge Dredd or something. Can't remember which one it was. Yeah. But they have sex with VR. It's way safer, in this.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's like, let's put these things away. Let me show you how to really, connect. Which there's something there too, But I think just on a cosmic plane, I think we can remain human as long as we have our brains, essentially, right? That can process things like sense. All the senses, touch, smell, feel. So it would need to be a high-tech body, but of course, we have the actual manifestation of this through Jane, who has been, upgraded and put, a spider freaking has upgraded her with a bunch of tech, but she's still the most just, arguably, character in the book, So
yeah, definitely
protecting Johnny. So,
right.
Yeah.
She was awesome, bro. I have a crush on
oh man,
Jane, bro.
When he passes out in the tunnel and then wakes up and she has her hair down all curly. Oh man, the carrot curls.
Oh man.
So hot.
And she's so cool, man. She's so cool and like cyberpunk and
so she's like the cyberpunk femme fatale
so
of my
awesome.
dreams, I want her, I wish some girl would just be like, I'm gonna be your bodyguard, and just make sure I go see my dolphin.
Yeah.
And upload the code.
Get into the dolphin.
I say I want to take 5 so I can gather some more thoughts on this, because this movie had way more layers than I expected.
All right, I gotta take a bathroom break anyway.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll come back. We'll take 5.
All right, cool.
All right. Dolphin time. Is a steaming burn and the Mexican cold beer and a $10,000 worker. Dude, the most ridiculous acting scenes. He should have won an Oscar for that performance. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man, acting looks so much fun.
Keanu is amazing. It does look fun. That's one thing I might do in my later life.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see you being one of those guys who, like, at the age of like 45, ends up like randomly becoming like a Hollywood actor or something.
Just like, well, I got the role in the new movie, so in the new show on Broadway. So it's crazy.
Yeah, right.
Me and Ethan Hawke.
Dude, I love that. That's so interesting to me. Like, I love stories of transformation, these people who like publish their first book when they're like, in their 40s and 50s and stuff,
That's what happened in The Principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That actor, he
oh, really?
Was an actor forever. He did like some Shakespeare that got like resounding freaking applause when he was younger. It's like teens.
Oh, wow.
Again, and then like close to 50 years old, he landed some crazy freaking Broadway as lead role, and
yeah,
rest is history. I also heard that guy got busted for like child porn or something. So yeah, man, actors, it's just wild. I don't know. Yeah, did you hear what happened to Russell Brand today?
I didn't I saw like a headline or something. I didn't like read it, but what he got like Me Too'd or something?
Yeah, he got accused of raping a few girls and just like inappropriate behavior.
Yeah.
Dude, the bottom line is anybody protecting Russell Brand clearly doesn't know who he is. Have you ever seen him in like all of his movies? He plays a pervert, and like,
yeah, right.
It's Russell Brand. Like, I don't know. He's definitely
and the dude from that '70s show.
I know, freaking Masterson. That guy got 30 years.
Crazy.
He was creepy as AF, you know. So. Yeah. A lot of them, you can just like kind of tell, you know.
What do you think it is? Is it just these dudes who like, you know, they're hyper successful, so that it's kind of this like sense of entitlement kind of thing? Like,
I think it's the opposite. I think that the job attracts very strange people.
I can see that.
Yeah.
That's true. Anyone in like show business must be kind of like
very bizarre egos and like thinking they can do things and like I don't know. It's like some Chester getting a job at like a kids daycare or something, you know. They just think that there's going to be opportunities for it, you know.
Yeah.
Creepy. Donnie Darko. That'd be a good one to watch for the pod.
That would be a fun one, yeah.
So, final thoughts on Johnny Mnemonic, you dolphin.
Yeah, man. So the dolphin was so unexpected. That shit was ridiculous. Okay, so to go back to the whole like integration with yourself, the universe, all that sort of thing, including the animal realm, right? I mean,
that's why you kept bringing up the animals.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Okay.
And it's like, and that's big, you know, I mean, that's something that I feel like maybe we are like increasing our global consciousness, because I feel like, you know, not even that long ago, a few decades ago, you know, people are still very much so like, oh, it's a fucking animal, bro. They can't, like, they're just animatrons. They can't think or feel, you know? And I feel like people are pretty attuned to like, you know, we've all seen documentaries where like elephants are like grieving over loved ones and like, you know, and we all have dogs and, you know, connect with our dogs and stuff like that. I feel like there's this larger sense of respect for like animal consciousness, you know, even being on a similar plane as human consciousness.
I think that all happened like in the 90s too. A lot of it, like Free Willy.
Free Willy
controversy at SeaWorld and like.
What was the dolphin one? Not the Johnny Mnemonic dolphin, the like Flipper the dolphin or something.
Flipper, yep. There was Flipper. There was even this Star Trek movie that came out where they have to go back in time to like 1980 San Francisco so they could get humpback whales because they're extinct, and bring them back to the future so the humpback whales can communicate with these aliens that are checking in on them.
Yo, and there's like stories now of like killer whales like fucking attacking boats because they're sick of the boats, you know, like
right. So
it's like, you know, animals
like,
are way
a lot of the
conscious.
whaling laws happened in the 90s too, you know. So yeah.
Octopus can fall in love.
Right.
Yeah. I went to dinner one night.
The lobster.
I went to dinner one night like a couple of years ago with Bria and her family, and and we went to this like super fancy place in Albuquerque, Los Poblanos. So good. You ever been there?
I love Los Poblanos. Yeah,
so good, bro. But anyway, so we're talking about octopus and how they like can fall in love, and when octopus dream, they're like changing colors, like you know how a dog twitches when it's dreaming, like an octopus will freaking change colors as it's dreaming in color. So
wow.
Cool. Yeah, and then Bria ordered this octopus meal and fucking started eating some octopus, and I was just like, dude, how are you doing? Like, I can't eat a thing that falls in love, you know? It's like, that's insane.
That's because Bria's Jane. She's badass.
Yeah, that's funny. But do you know about John Lilly? Dr. John Lilly. Do you know about this?
John Lilly. I thought you said John Willie. I was like, from Free Willy? No, I'm not sure. I meant that humpback whale. Yeah.
From Free Willy. Wait, you know about John Lilly or no?
Is he like the psychedelic doctor, author dude?
Yeah, so get this, dude. This fucking guy, Dr. John Lilly. he was, I just thought of another connection to him, but I'll put that to the side. So this dude was doing experiments on dolphins, giving LSD to dolphins, and like just had a freaking couple of dolphins in a pool in his lab and was just feeding them acid and doing tests on them.
John Lilly,
So he's feeding these dolphins acid, and he's doing all these experiments to try and communicate with dolphins and like teach dolphin speech and stuff like that. Just like weird,
crazy
edge of studying the human and the non-human, all that shit, right? And then there was a lab assistant of his, this woman who would be doing experiments with the dolphin and developed like a friendship with the dolphin, right? And she'd be doing these experiments, these tests to see like how well the dolphin can communicate, all this sort of stuff. And then the dolphin would start to get like distracted in the pool. It would get like, just sort of like, I don't know, just bored and start swimming around and ignoring her and stuff like that. And then one day the dolphin, like she saw that the dolphin had a boner, right? So she jerks off the dolphin. I swear to God, this is a true story. She's like, oh, maybe it will calm him down so we can continue doing our lab studies, right? So she
that's
jerks
a good
off
idea.
the dolphin. So weird, bro. So she jerks off the dolphin to completion, and then the dolphin actually calms down after that and then can like participate in the lab experiments more diligently, right? So then she sees this and like does it like on the daily, dude. She's just like jerking off this dolphin every day, right? And the dolphin falls in love with her. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. The dolphin falls in love with her. And then she ends up like leaving, gets a different job or something like that. And the dolphin fucking dies. It like got like heartbroken and died.
Oh God.
Yeah, and there was a story on it. The story, it came out originally like in an issue of Playboy in the 70s, and it was totally amped up that she's having sex with the dolphin.
Right.
But then the true story was she wasn't, full on having sex with it, but like she was, pleasuring the dolphin, and then the dolphin fell in love, which is so. And apparently the dolphin was on acid too during this whole thing. So.
So men are just dolphins on acid, essentially.
So so I'm pretty sure like, hooking up the dolphin in Johnny Mnemonic to like
bring it back to Johnny Mnemonic.
The virtual realm and stuff. I mean, I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say like, they're tapping into psychedelic culture, they're tapping into rave culture, they're tapping into cyberpunk culture. I wouldn't be surprised if the writers were like aware of the John Lilly experiments,
right?
And sort of like, kind of inspired by that. Especially William Gibson, that dude read everything. He knew fucking everything that was going on in the world.
Oh, sure, and they're trying to be part of that subculture too, obviously.
Exactly.
The whole like punk grimy, everybody's on acid, and Johnny Mnemonic is acid, right? When he puts on the virtual reality set and everything.
Exactly.
The beginning of the movie is like the internet 2021 on acid. Freaking
exactly.
Yeah.
Yo, and can I like hop into like psychedelic culture for a minute, because there's something interesting about
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. 90s are I think culture happens in 30-year cycles. It's like the 80s, like all the dudes wearing leather jackets and stuff. That was just a re-rendition of like the 50s greasers, right?
Sure. I heard the other day, sidebar, that pop culture hits in 20-year cycles, so close, but same sort of paradigm, right?
Yeah, you have the 60s, like hippies, rock bands, whatever. And then the 90s, there's definitely like a 90s hippie, jam bands, Fish, all this stuff, right? People wearing tie-dye again and being into aliens. That was all really 90s. So we're in the 2020s now. So we're back on that 30-year cycle. And, we're seeing like, psychedelic research in colleges. Some cultural commentators say there's like a psychedelic renaissance occurring, that sort of thing. Burning Man conference, shit like that, MAPS conference. But like, but it went away during the early 2000s, during the Bush years. You can see that it went away, and it's like in film. So V for Vendetta, um, that movie like completely erased any psychedelic and occult references that the original book had. It completely erases any of the kind of like dark psychedelic background that occurs in the book for the movie that came out during the Bush years, you know?
Yeah,
So I just
yeah.
think like there's just something interesting there where it's like, you know, I think 20-30 year cycles, culture sort of
There's
cycles through.
something very unpsychedelic about the early 2000s too. Very raw and
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
industrial almost, you know,
Yeah.
very
The early
70s,
2000s was very whitewashed, you know?
like 70s almost. Like you're saying that 30-year sort of cycle there. And
Yeah.
it was just like, you know, the Deer Hunter stats.
Right.
And
Right.
if you think about going to another Alan Moore recreation, the Watchmen movie,
Yeah.
that shit's brutal. It's not psychedelic at all. You know, it's
Right.
rough and cut, but it's sort of a glimpse into what's going to come in the 2020s. But still,
The series or
the movie,
yeah, definitely.
not the series that came out. That's more psychedelic, I would say.
Yeah.
But the comic book is, but the movie that came out in the 2000s, that you know, in the early aughts.
Or the Northman, bro. We were talking about maybe doing a Northman episode.
Oh, yeah,
We should get back to the Dolphin though, because we're bouncing all over. But the Northman's like 20 psychedelic. It's like that movie, you know, they're all fucking Viking shaman guys taking mushrooms in the woods and stuff. It's like you wouldn't see a movie like that made during the 2000s, you know? You just wouldn't.
Right. Exactly. But going back to your point, the 90s, and psychedelics have a lot to do with the animal figure too.
Right.
And the animal as a savior and the animal as a shaman guide and your spirit animal.
Right.
And, you know, back to Johnny Mnemonic, the dolphin as the savior, right?
Yeah.
And not
it's the
just
natural world. Yeah.
Not just the dolphin saves us, you know, flies up into the air and like destroys the big pharma building, a bunch of dolphins, you know, lasers on their heads. No, it's mental integration, right? And it's not only mental integration, it's a natural integration with the technological space.
Right.
And that's the crazy thing that keeps befuddling me about this movie is the ultimate resolution. It's the evolution with tech. It's not the destruction of pharma. It's not the destruction of tech. It's the Robin Hoods retaking tech, integrate, as you're saying, with a natural space and a natural world, and then we get that beautiful sort of Fight Club-esque scene where the big pharma building's on fire, right? But but it's because we're now one. The dark crystal is now one.
I love that. Yeah,
the good and the bad. So,
yeah, well said. Yeah, definitely, I can see that for sure because you have like the contrast and juxtaposition of dolphin representing natural world and then the tech world and the balancing of each. And you see that too for sure in like William Gibson's novels and some other like cyberpunk movies and stuff where like the tech setting. It almost has like a natural forest or jungle kind of feel to it. Like there's so many wires and stuff like that are just sort of like coming out of the walls the way you would see like leaves and vines, you know, like
sure,
you know,
branches of the tech world,
right? Yeah. So I think you're right. You know, okay, so can we, if we haven't already, can we achieve that healthy synthesis and balance of tech and nature in our world right now?
I think that we can, and I think we kind of answered this discussion a little bit earlier too. Is not the erasure of the body, but the integration of tech with the body and the mind as this, you know, sort of triptych sort of thing, right? And of course, there's exploitation of the tech space,
right?
As you know, Pharmacon showed us in Johnny Mnemonic, but it can be used for the low techs, which is a moral and righteous cause. Yeah. A cause for the masses, for humanity's sake.
Right.
To take it back from a space of machinery, just like in the Matrix, and return us to Zion, essentially. But Zion is an integration with the machines and the robots. They protect Zion as well. And that Zion is basically, like we're saying, the integration of the triptych, which is the body, the mind, and technology. Or nature and technology, a duality. So.
Great, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really fascinating. And the low techs, they're the low techs. They're not like the no techs, right? I mean, it's not like they've
right.
They're not Luddites. They haven't completely rejected technology and technological space. They're using it in a healthy way to their advantage. And that's the thing. Yeah, I guess tech isn't inherently bad. What I think is inherently bad is corporate America,
right. Pharmacon.
And
it's interesting too to think it's really fun. This would be a fun undergraduate paper of a compare and contrast Johnny Mnemonic and the Matrix.
Yeah.
And one commentary the Matrix makes too, and harking back to last week's episode, is the purpose of religion and the purpose of horror stories and the purpose of, faith and heaven and glory stories, as it would. Glory hole stories, but freaking going to heaven. But in any event, the religion is used as a way to restructure the village, right? To protect the village and to give you a hope and something to live for and a community space and what have you. And the demons are made to protect us from, killing ourselves or killing others and, essentially restructuring the village, the tribe, right?
Yeah.
A return to the tribe. Damn it. I was fucking lost my final thought on that. Oh, man. Son of a bitch. It'll come back around. Around.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I think reintegration of the village, of the tribe, I mean, it's kind of like this, at this point, I don't think it's going to happen, but this kind of Green New Deal America, where it's 2030s, 2040s, 2050s America, where it's, we've stopped using coal and we've mostly stopped using oil. And now we're figured out how to really harness solar power and wind power. And I mean, that's literally what that is, right? I mean, that's synthesis of nature and tech, in the best way possible and creating the best world possible through that synthesis.
Right. Oh, that was going to be my point there. You reminded me of it.
Yeah.
Is the connections with religion and its purpose, right? The purpose.
Yeah.
And the purpose. So if we look at religion that way and not in this, true or false or whatever.
Sure.
The evolutionary purpose, we could say. The Matrix commented on what's the name of the ship, right? The Nebuchadnezzar.
Right? Yeah.
Right. There's so.
What's that again? What's Nebuchadnezzar?
That Nebuchadnezzar is Morpheus's ship.
Yeah, but where's that name come from? That's a biblical thing, right?
And that's a biblical thing, yeah. King Nebuchadnezzar.
Right.
I'm gonna Google that. I have a vague understanding of what it was because I've looked it up because of the Matrix, especially. And Bible, but
look that up, Jamie.
Look that up, Jamie. But nonetheless, right? And Neo is like this Jesus figure, the chosen one,
right.
That's gonna sacrifice himself for the sake of humanity, so to speak. So, likewise in Johnny Mnemonic, right? The parallels between that and the Matrix is Johnny Mnemonic too. Heaven is where the low techs are at, right? There's all this fundamental religious lore and legends and mythology that's created in this new technical space. Just like we were saying, there's new horror stories that are created 21st century. There's also new technological forms of religion. So,
right, yeah, you're still seeing. I mean, and that's what's so appealing to me about the low techs, about the Zion people and Matrix, is the return of culture, because it's not even tech's not bad, it's cool, whatever, like modern society, not so bad. I mean, like we were saying before, all the advancements in medicine that people can have prosthetics for lost limbs. I mean, wow, that's so great, but I think just the loss of culture, it's like, why can't we have prosthetics as well as healthy integrated communities and shared culture, as opposed to. So it's like, you're sitting around the low tech, sitting around a fire, tapping into their own new story traditions, right? Rather than just like sitting isolated in their living rooms.
Right.
But yeah, I looked up King Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay, King Nebuchadnezzar, portrayed in the Bible as the Babylonian king whose conquest of Judah led to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem.
Cool.
However, he's also well known for his relationship with Daniel and his ability to interpret the king's dreams when no one else could.
Oh, cool.
All
right, there you go.
Nebuchadnezzar II historically was the longest ruling king of the Chaldean Empire. He was 43 years old when he died.
Yeah. And the whole the temple burning down, I mean, that the whole idea with that was like the system burning down, right? That was like the
right.
The religious power structure. Typically
regarded as the empire's greatest king, Nebuchadnezzar remains famous for his military campaigns. Ooh, we should do Legends of War on this guy.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Including Hanging Gardens of Babylon and for the role he plays in Jewish history. Yeah, I think what it was, though, just like what you're saying, is it's not like he destroyed it because he was so terrible. God made him destroy it because the Jewish people were so terrible at the time, right? Using the temple as a means of
like money lending,
and merchants. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah,
because the temple got destroyed like multiple times, right?
I'm only aware of the one. Okay, so I went to Catholic high school, and then we had to take a theology class, and I remember there was this like little rhyme to remember this. So I remember the teacher, Miss McNiff. She was like this super old, nice Catholic lady, and she's like, what was it in 70 A.D. the temple was destroyed, or the Sadducees were sad, you see, because the temple was destroyed in 70 A.D. That was the rhyme. So in 70 AD, it got destroyed, and the Sadducees, which were like the religious elites, the priest class, but the corrupt priest class, were sad, apparently. But then there's the earlier story where Jesus, he like goes into the temple and flips the tables because he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? There's like money lenders in the temple,
right?
You're profane."
Yeah, and I think that one was later. Right, that was in the Hebrew scriptures. Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian destruction of the temple. That was that was the Hebrew. I can't remember the Greek and the Hebrew.
Sure,
but nonetheless, yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of off on my biblical history.
Yeah, it's fine.
I have been agnostic for 15 years.
Yeah,
if I'd say that, but
But going with the
I'm the cyborg spirituality, my babies.
Cyborg spirituality.
Yeah, Rollins, Dolphins. We're heading
Dolphins,
into the future. We're
yeah.
I think they could have done without that like girl that was the head of the company that was like, they're using my company, Johnny.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. And then there's also
didn't really make sense,
Yeah, there's this weird like mediumship, right? I mean, where the technological space becomes the medium for the spirit world to come through, the ghost world. Right, bro? Because I mean,
yes.
it's covering everything if we're talking in terms of the non-human and post-human and integration with other non-human consciousness. Okay, because we have
Wow.
tech.
Yeah.
Yep, we have tech, we have human, of course, tech, nature, um, ghost world, spirit world, dead land, um, cyborg, I mean, it's
Right.
really the
And
only
then
thing
what
that's
do they
lacking
do?
is alien.
What are they doing to her? The ghost.
Ignoring.
Just what me and you were saying last week that man, they ruined Rain. They're ruining ghost stories. They're actually killing the cyborg ghost memories within the hard drive. You
Right.
know, it's a literal manifestation of Jared to Jared. Maybe they went into the future and watched this.
Probably.
Listen to this episode, William Gibson. But
Right.
nonetheless,
Yeah, because Pharmacon was deleting all of her
right?
work and her memory from the
Yeah,
interface, right? Yeah,
yeah.
and that's literally what it is. I mean, it's like, okay, if for any listeners in this podcast, or just whoever, like, can you name your great grandparents? What are their first and last names? A lot of people can't do that, right? And it's like
Right.
most people can't, and it's literally just your great grandparents. That's not that far back, but it's like, again, cultural erasure, historical erasure where we're, disconnected from time itself, from our histories. And that's not
And
healthy.
Johnny literally lives in this time where you can literally erase part of your memory from our old thesis from 10 years ago of memory flooding.
Yeah.
And this goes back to Rollins' freak out too, is there's just too much, man. It's too much. It's everywhere.
Too much. It's too much.
Nowadays, it's just too much. TikTok, Instagram, jobs, working freaking 40 hours a week,
Yeah, man.
no matter what emails, our phones, our relationships, Tinder, the
Yeah.
list goes on, right?
Yeah.
It's
Bro,
too much. We're losing our memories. We don't even know our great grandparents are, for crying out loud.
mem- memory flooding. And like, I was listening to this philosopher, Jacob Needleman, who's freaking awesome. I have a copy of the Tao Te Ching, and like, this guy wrote a really, really awesome introduction to it. So I just like looked him up, see if he had any lectures or whatever. And of course he does. And like, I was listening to one where he was saying, he goes, every technological advancement for the past 100, 200 years has been delivered with the promise that it will free up more time, that it will create more time for us.
Right, right.
Has that been true at all?
You bring up that good parable or story about the cotton gin.
The cotton gin, bro.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Another point too is I realize, because we asked a question a few episodes ago, is why do we love history so much,
Yeah.
And I think that we love history is because history is becoming human.
Yeah.
Looking back into our own histories can actually give us a sense or a feeling of reconnecting to a time that was uncorrupted by the technological corporate big pharma, industrial complex that we live in.
Yeah.
It's a human complex as that we live in right now. So looking back into history, we can actually become more human because we're looking back to a time when we were.
Right. Exactly. And this is, and this is the whole project. And I think Becoming Human and Jare to Jared are kind of,
Legends
this
of
seems to be
War
a
too.
major theme, Legends of War, but like,
We're going back into history, baby.
yeah, I mean, restitching together the ripped up fabric of the village, of the community, it's like of the tribe. How do we stitch it back together? The metaphor I keep using is okay, during the postmodern era, we took the watch apart, and now it's our duty, as just human beings, but as scholars, writers, artists, whatever, to stitch it all back together. And how do we do that? And I think everyone plays a different role. It's like for you and me, that's it's intellectual, it's creative. for someone else, it could be in, if they're work in law enforcement, for example, and then, use their work in law enforcement as a way to, stitch back together communities or whatever. People do it in education, high schools. So just how are you stitching the world back together? I think that's like the question of this age,
Right.
And I think we're making an attempt at that just in our own creative practices and spiritual practices.
And I think what's great about movies like The Matrix and Johnny Mnemonic and the low tax, right, is it gives everybody a purpose in this new society.
Right.
Dude, there's a fucking pandemic of suicide and depression and anxiety right now,
Yeah.
And a lot of people, incels and stuff, they don't realize their worth and their purpose in our world, and the J-Bones of the world, they can be leaders of heaven, and actually end up saving the world. People like Trinity and Neo and Morpheus, right?
For sure.
People like Jared freaking with an A and Jared with an E, and Dion with an ION. We can change the world, man. And even like you're saying, people like, notable great constables that start with a JOHN, and freaking or firefighters, whatever it is, but you don't have to necessarily take that, a person who plays video games would find the space in the Johnny Mnemonic world, they could have a purpose. And that's one of the great parts of the integration utopia that we're trying to build here.
Exactly, bro. And it's like, look, you said so many great things just now, and it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, you look at that movie and you're right. What's so beautiful about the low text is everyone has a purpose. Every character, even the just sort of like goofy side characters, are like on watch, on the bridge or something. Like everyone is serving a purpose because there's a unifying mission.
Yes.
We don't have a unifying mission as a country, which is why we're completely turning in on ourselves. The disintegration, the divisiveness. There's no unifying mission, whether that's beating the Nazis, saving the world from the aliens. The idea has been proposed that the environment, can that be our unifying mission for this generation? And, apparently not, but it's one idea, and even like the corporate people, you see it too there, like in, or maybe I think it was the Yakuza, but there was that scene where like one dude, he's just a random guy. He's on camera for like 10 seconds and he gets killed, and he's part of the Yakuza, just one of the like foot soldiers. And then this chick is like, she's like, no, Brandon, or whatever the guy's name was. And it's like this moment that humanizes the Yakuza, where it's like this soldier said that she just lost her friend, and then it's humanizing for them. And I wonder if in our world, because I kind of want everyone to be on the low text, right? I want everyone to be like, down with the, reclaiming public space, down with restitching the village and stuff. And I think if you take these corporate people, it's like I think they would enjoy it too. It's like you hear stories about, like, there's one dude, I forget his name, who like this black dude who like goes into KKK communities and fucking like takes white people and like, convinces them out of the KKK, which is fucking so scary. But I mean, that's powerful, where he's like, come join our side, bro. It's way more fun. Like, you get to hang out, meet people, like, care about people, not just be living from a place of fear and anger. And, it's like, come hang out with like John and Jane and J-Bone. It's going to be sick,
What's that dude's name? I've heard him on podcast before. Wow. That movie, Black Klansman, was written, I think, partly because of him or people he worked with. Yeah. So, super interesting.
Powerful, man.
Another point I wanted to mention too is Johnny Mnemonic, right? So we have Johnny, which is a very plain and just everyday person name, you know.
John McHugh, bro. Yeah.
John McHugh, McCunick, Jared McCunick, Jared Mnemonic. But mnemonic, right? I got the noun here and the adjective. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
A device such as a pattern of letters, ideas, or associations that assists in remembering something. For example, Richard of York gave battle in vain for the colors of the pattern spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I had to invent a mnemonic, in other words, a prompt that I could use in chemistry exams. And then the adjective, aiding or designed to aid the memory. In terms of leadership, I use the mnemonic device.
Yeah.
ET, ownership, accountability, you know.
The Sadducees were Sadducee when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. That's a mnemonic, right?
There you go. That's a mnemonic.
To remember
Yeah, exactly. So yes, he's dehumanized, right? But the very nature of a mnemonic is human, is inherently human.
Right.
It's something that actually aids and guides a human. It has to deal with the memory and the design of the brain and the design of becoming human, right? So in one way, he's objectified, but in this new world, objects are personified.
Because he is the mnemonic, right?
Right. He's Johnny Mnemonic, right? And he's the savior. He's the person who throughout the movie is trying to find his humanity. And what does the dolphin give him? A final memory of his mother, right? At his 7th birthday.
Right. Yeah. Memory. Yeah. Reintegrating the memory.
Reintegration.
Which, I mean, talk about, recovering and healing from woundedness, trauma, whatever. I mean, it's a story of repressed memory, right? It's a story of repressed memories that are then recovered in order to integrate more fully with the child self, the wounded child that resides within all of us, you know?
And that's an interesting point too, because what does he give up in order to be someone who can live in a capitalist world with $10,000 hookers and nice buttons on my shirt, like they do, you know?
Literally gives up his childhood history in order to operate more effectively in a capitalistic
and
society.
That's sort of how it works, you know, in America and quote unquote maturity or whatever. And you know, even in academia, it's such a dog eat dog world, and you just you lose your childhood and in a lot of instances, especially like these admins and stuff, you know. They become Johnny Mnemonics, you know. They're just essentially aids in memory for a corporate cause, though, right?
Right.
We pay you 150 grand because you remember how to respond to teachers and section 7.1 AD of the union paperwork, you know.
Exactly.
You know, so you're essentially just like a data programmer, but don't put too much in because you could potentially die. And we see that with so many people dropping dead here in American society, working themselves to literal fucking death, you know, because they jacked up 320 gigs into my brain, man. I want it out.
Oh man, for real, bro. That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, everything you just said,
So
yeah, we gotta restitch it.
In any event, quite a good cinematic experience there, you know. Mnemonic. I love it.
Yeah, it's a classic. So good.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good point there. Our final thoughts there are pretty good. Do you have any other final thoughts?
No, not really, other than I appreciate how you're down with the becoming human manifesto. You know, it's cool.
Listen, on the Becoming Human Narrative Manifesto, I want to be part of the followers on this here.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, that's part of the.
Listen, it's an interesting thesis, you know.
It is, yeah.
You know, to me and you were always interested in the post-human and the cyborg,
right? Yeah.
You know?
And it's the whole I mean, the becoming human is like what it really is me trying to start up the low techs, start up Zion essentially, just saying
Sure.
like, hey, like look around because I don't know if many of us are feeling all that human, maybe we should
Right,
work on
right.
that. And that's coming from, fucking white dude grew up in the suburbs, Long Island, feeling dehumanized. It's like, holy
Sure.
shit, bro. Like, if I'm feeling dehumanized, it's like, it's got to be pretty bad out there, Like,
Right. You're
you
essentially
know what I mean?
J-Bone, you know?
Yeah. I'm J-Bone, bro.
You're J-Bone.
Yeah.
No, I dig it. I dig it, and I've always been a prophet of technology,
Right.
and I patriotic, love America. I'm an American man. I think
Yeah.
that tech could actually be manifested by the low techs
Yeah.
to take over big pharma, big institutions, big corporations, right, from the inside out eventually, And I think that's a dream that was really built in the 90s is revolution. You look at the bands, Rage Against the Machine,
Right.
all this like new metal and even the hip hop
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and then you get movies like Fight Club blowing up the credit card buildings,
Right.
John Mnemonic, The Matrix 1 came out 1999,
Yeah.
These are all movies about revolutions, freaking
Yeah.
France, my babies, taking back over America,
See, and that's the thing too. It's like that makes me feel kind of down sometimes because I'm like I remember when I was in college, maybe feeling a little bit more idealistic about this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm a much more I like who I am now more than I like myself in college. I think I've definitely just like developed as a human being more in a positive way. But still, I think something that I lack now that I had more of, in my early 20s was this sense of maybe optimism that it was like, oh, cool, yeah, look, we're all kind of turning on to like how fucked up, the system is, and if we can, through our storytelling and music and culture, we can reclaim all of this, and it's looking pretty good. But as I'm turning 32 in a month, and just entering, just being an adult now and entering more fully into adulthood every day, just looking around and feeling kind of little bit disenchanted too, where it's like, oh shit, man, like, well, things have only gotten kind of worse, in the past 10, 20 years. So I don't know. It's like, was all the revolutionary art and movies and all that of that at that era, did it actually do anything,
Well, I mean, look at one of both of our favorite historical figures, freaking Maximilien Robespierre, from for the French Revolution, Viva la Revolution. He freaking was part of chopping that bitch's head off, and he was a figure of this new government. And what happens to Robespierre?
Yeah.
They treated the dude like a baguette. They freaking killed him. They chopped his head off.
Treated the dude like a baguette.
So I think this happens to a lot of scholars, stoics, whatever, politicians, even just the humans in general,
Yeah.
Is when we're young and we fight for all these things and these moralities and these causes because we're human and we're mature now and we figured it out, and then you get older and you realize I didn't figure shit out.
Right.
What I did figure out is I'm a human being, and I enjoy watching like Johnny Mnemonic and listening to Jare over like a nice glass of Glenlivet, like Jack Crawford, on his trawling bloat, the Clementine Churchill, I like to go fishing and stuff, and I like to let things go. Right. And maybe, at the Senate, at the, faculty Senate, I'll probably just like mute it and go get some tea, and water my roses, because they're going to chop my head off, baguette. So, and it's just, and in the end, I think do we change? I don't know. Is it for the better? Is it for the worst? I don't know.
Yeah. I want to clarify for the Jared to Jared, J-Bone to J-Bone listeners. We love America on Jared to Jared. I feel like that's because I feel sometimes I think there's this confusion often, and in narratives and among people that if you're upset about something, if you're like, want to protest something or just bitch about something or be upset about like corporate America and how fucked up, the country is in so many ways, that means you're anti-American. That means you hate this place.
Right.
And that you want to see it destroyed or something like that, Antifa, burn it all down. Like, absolutely not. Like, I think it's actually from a place of like concern and care and patriotism, kind of that we want to,
it's literally
develop our views and restitch it. It's like you can't restitch the village if you hate the village.
The village is America. That's our project.
Like America's sick right now, and saying America's sick, I don't think is like anti-nationalist or anti-patriot or something. America's sick in the same way that if you have like a sick friend or parent or child, you want to do something, to help out and aid, and
every nation will always be sick, and that's a good way to look at it, as always being better, always improving.
Right. There's always
health. And I would argue it's the opposite. If we didn't say anything and we did nothing and we didn't give a shit, we would be unpatriotic, we're the most patriotic. Right. And if you look back to revolutionary France, well, the Queen would have said Robespierre's not a French, he's a disgrace to his Frenchhood, French citizens, whatever. He's a disgrace to his baguettes,
Yeah.
But Robespierre and the rest of the people in the freaking revolution, well, he's the most Frenchman in all of France, so he's the crunchiest of baguettes of them all, so again, we're patriots, my baby. We're freaking J-Bone. J-Bone to J-Bone is an American podcast through and through.
It is. We should change our podcast cover, have the American flag behind us.
That's true. And
bro, it could be us like standing back to back with our arms folded and the American flag behind us.
That could be pretty good. Yeah. You were a little disappointed at first with the photo I took for the cover, and
I'm over it. It's fine now. Yeah.
Have you grown with it? People really like it, but yeah,
it's fine. I like it.
Listen, man, I think we need to go to the digitized American flag, because this is really an American pod inherently.
It is.
Yeah. Just like Johnny Mnemonic and J-Bone and Jane.
Yeah.
They were the most Americans of them all. Big Pharma they used, non-American entities to freaking murder off people that were trying to give away, the secret to the formula. So,
seeing what's cool too is
trying to save the village.
Yeah. You could take all the elements of the cyberpunk narrative and you could make it a American Revolution historical narrative, and it would still hold up. It would still be the same. I mean, that's what's cool about the cyberpunk narrative structure, is that it's transferable onto all these other time periods and aesthetics, and can still retain its message.
And then look at what the function of the underground was, the low techs at first. Before Johnny was the release of information, right? And we're living in that age, 2021. That was another prophetic moment of that movie. There was a senator on Rogan the other day. I can't remember, from Hawaii, her name, but she was saying that governments, right? They still, American government and corporations and stuff, they try to withhold information and hide things from the masses, and you just can't do that really anymore. Technology has become a life thread for all of us, and freaking Rollins talk with him about all this stuff. This is what causes it. But we need it, because what we're creating is something that is going to push forward and supposed to evolve what is human. the capacities of human ability and understanding and comprehension, like, you know, the space telescope and things with environmentalism and health and medical and all this stuff, right? And one of the things that you can't do is own humanity, right? You can't own something that's inherently human or something that's inherently natural. So tech, I'm trying to argue to you, is actually a natural space. It's constructed from a natural entity that's trying to reform or create something that is human, right? Something that is natural. Yeah. And one thing you can't own is the animals, you know, free willy. You can't own human slaves, and you can't own tech. And that's of one other thing that Johnny Mnemonic and Matrix is trying to tell us in a lot of these sci-fis. Yeah. And a lot of what's happening now with the pandemic, all this stuff, is you can't own technology, especially with social media and all this shit, right? You can't own information. Right. Because it's human.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's natural.
Yeah. Information as human. Yeah. Yeah. And I think of like Emerson in his essay, The Oversoul, he talks about how, like everything physical, and he's talking about nature, human beings, you know, the entire thing is an expression of the spirit behind it. So, you know, the form that things take is just the material expression of this, you know, deeper spirit, oversoul, whatever you want to call it. And right. If that's true, I mean, that includes, you know, tech, all the weird shit that's going on. You know, this is maybe there's a bigger narrative that we're just not seeing, you know, and maybe not capable of seeing. Maybe there's some like fourth dimensional creatures warring it out with each other, and you know, what's going on in their world is having an impact on our world or something like that, you know. Who knows? Right.
And what a cool story that'd be to meet an evolved species that evolved naturally.
Yeah.
And we're able to contact and hang out with them and associate and protect ourselves, all this stuff, and communicate with them because of something we created that was inherently us, better than us, to propel us to their level. Right. That's a fucking beautiful story of nature to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like maybe all the tech stuff, it's all just part of the plan, all part of nature's plan.
On behalf of the Jareds, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. The Jareds will be back next week, and always remember, your body's not always a temple. It's also an amusement park. Don't forget to enjoy the ride. Have a good night.